To add any wardrobe from your catalog, go into Insert and then Furnish. When you click on Furnish, if your room is marked as a bedroom, then you'll be able to see the furnitures appropriate for bedroom in the quick view option. Otherwise, you can go into all as well. Herein, you will be able to see bedroom furnitures under which you can see wardrobes. When you select the same, the different types of wardrobes like swing and sliding open up. So let's say we are selecting a double swing door, and for the sake of discussion, we will be taking a completely empty wardrobe. You can also select any of the pre-configured wardrobes here. Let's say I'm selecting this. So when you open up the same, you can see that the configuration of the internals are already done, and you can use the same if it is appropriate for your designing. If not, and you want to customize your entire wardrobe, you can select a blank wardrobe and customize the same. If you want to start designing your wardrobe internals from scratch, then you can select any of the completely empty wardrobes and add it to your design. As you can see, this is completely empty, and we will start adding different configurations inside it. Since there are no partitions or shelves added in this particular wardrobe, this entire space, when you click inside the same, will get highlighted, and it is the partition completely. And you can go inside the partition tab here to make any changes in the particular partition. When you go inside the partition tab, the partition which is being discussed gets highlighted in yellow. So let's say I am adding two partitions inside this. Then, as you can see, now there are three partitions inside this particular wardrobe, and the parent partition is the complete area, whereas the child partitions are these three. So you can select any of the child partitions here and make any changes that you require, like adding shelves and drawers. The difference between the child and parent partition is that the parent partition is the complete area that is under discussion, and the child partition are the partitions inside the same. And for the ease of understanding, when you select any particular partition, it gets highlighted in yellow so that you understand in which particular partition you are adding any drawer, shelf, or other partitions as well. Now, after selecting this partition, if I go inside the partition tab and add three shelves there, then there are 4 child partitions that are created inside this parent partition. So when you select any of this, you can see that there is the partition which is under discussion, and when you select the same, again it turns yellow. Then there is the parent partition, which is the complete partition here, and there is the parent partition 2, which is again the larger partition of the entire wardrobe. So again, partition, parent partition 1 and parent partition 2. Now let's take a step back and understand how to add more partitions, shelves and drawers inside a particular wardrobe. So let's select the first partition. You can do so by selecting any of the area inside the wardrobe, and it gets highlighted in blue. Then go inside the partition tab, and the active partition gets highlighted in yellow again. So herein you have the option to add drawers, add partitions or shelves. Partitions are the vertical panels that will be added. So let's say I'm adding one partition here. So as you can see, there is one partition that has been added, and now there are two child partitions that have been created inside the first partition. Now let's see how to add shelves here. Select any of the partitions that you want, and let's say I'm selecting this partition, and here I want to add shelves. You again have the option, and you can do so by adding the number of shelves that you want to add. Let's say I'm adding 3 shelves. So as you can see, there are 3 shelves that are now added here. Inside any of these, if you want to add any drawer, then you can select that particular child partition, go into the partition tab, and herein you can add drawers. Now, let's say I'm adding 3 drawers inside this particular partition. So as you can see, there are 3 drawers that have been now added inside this particular partition. To remove any particular shelf or partition, select the panel that you want to remove and go into the panel option. Herein, you'll get the option of deleting the shelf, and you can select the same and it will get deleted. The other partitions in that particular parent partition as per the available dimension of the parent partition. You can also delete any particular drawer by selecting the drawer, and you can go into drawer and you can remove the drawer. You can also remove any partition by selecting the panel again, going to the panel tab and repeating the same process as before by deleting the shelf. You will be asked to confirm if you want to delete this particular partition, as it will have an effect on the top and bottom partitions and their respective child partitions, and you can decide the same and click on accept if required or cancel if not. To change the dimension of any particular partition, click inside the partition and go into the particular partition tab. Herein, you'll get an option of partition dimension, and when you open the same, you can see that it is currently auto-calculated by default, meaning that the total dimension of the parent partition was divided into 1, 2, 3 and 4 parts, and the dimension that was allocated to this particular partition was 478. You can also switch to fixed height, which means that you can assign the height of the partition that is required. So let's say I'm defining that the height of the partition I need is 900 mm. So as you can see, the height of this particular partition increases to 900, and the rest of the available space is again divided into 1, 2, 3, and all the 3 partitions are auto calculated and adjusted as per the same. Width of a particular partition, select the partition that you want to change and go into partition. Here in partition dimension, you will be able to see the width that is currently the size. So basically, the entire parent partition was divided into 2 child partitions, and as per the same, the dimension that was allocated to both the child partitions was 423, which is the auto calculation. And if you want to switch to fixed width, wherein you can define the width of the particular dimension, you can select the same, switch to fixed width, and herein now you can define what is the dimension of the width that you want. Let's say I want 600 mm. So now this particular partition has been changed to 600 mm. One thing to note is that you cannot change width of such child partitions, because this is dependent on the overall parent partition of this particular area as well. So if you want to make changes in this, you'll have to make changes in 1, 2, 3, 4, all of the 4 partitions. So you should go into, this is the partition, this is the parent partition of it, and when you open the parent partition, you can again see the width option. So herein, since there are only 2 partitions, as you can see, it is not possible to change the partition of this, because this particular partition has already been defined in terms of fixed width. So the only option for this particular partition is to take a auto calculated dimension, meaning whatever is left from the total partition size minus 600, which we had allocated here, is possible to be taken in this child partition. So when there are 2 child partitions only in the discussion, then only one can be defined in terms of a fixed width and the other has to be auto calculated. If there are 3, then you can define 2 of those partitions and the third has to be auto calculated again. Select the panel for which you want to make the change and go into the panel tab. Herein, under shelf, you will see the option whether you want to make it fixed or adjustable. And you can select whether you want it to be fixed or adjustable as per your designing requirement. You can also change the visibility of that particular panel by making it invisible, and this particular panel is no longer seen, but the partitions which it defines still exist. As you can see, there are two partitions that are still getting shown here. So in cases where the drawer is an internal drawer, you can mark the same as internal, and in cases where the drawer is an external drawer like this one, you can mark it as an external drawer. In case of external, this particular drawer's fascia will align with the shutter fascia, and in this particular case where you have marked it as an internal drawer, there will be a shelf reveal which you can notice here, such that it is possible for the shutter to open and close smoothly. You can also define whether any of the drawers that you have taken needs to be marked as an internal drawer or an external drawer. Simply select the drawer and you can go into drawer systems, wherein you will be asked to mark whether it's an internal drawer or an external drawer. So when you select external, this takes the material of your shutter finishes. Like you can see, currently it's taking the finish of the shutter. However, if you want mark it as internal, then these take the finishes of your carcass. So it is now marked as an internal drawer. As you can see, internal drawers also have a shelf reveal here, meaning that the drawers are slightly inside to ensure that the shutter opens smoothly. When you mark these drawers as external, these will be over the carcass and in the same position as the shutter. These are required when you want to have drawers which are openable from outside, and in that case the shutter should be designed appropriately. In case you want to add or remove any shutter and add it as per the partitions that are provided, what you can do is you can select the particular cabinet and you can go into shutter system. Herein, when you go into the customize option, under shutter system configuration, you have a remove shutter. So let's say first we remove the shutter, then let's add a partition here. I'll be adding one shelf here. So now you can see there are two partitions that have been created. So let's say for each partition I want to have a different shutter configuration. So I'll select the particular partition, go into partition, and herein I have an option called add shutter system. When I select the same, the shutter system gets added here. Select the shutter again and you can go into shutter system, and in shutter mechanism you can select whether you want a double swing or a sliding or rolling, whatever configuration you want. I want a double swing and I will select the same, and it turns into a double swing shutter. In the next partition also you can add a separate shutter system by going into partition and herein add shutter system. In the same way, by going into shutter system you can change it to double swing. So now I have different shutter systems for both the partitions. This is how you can add different shutter systems to different partitions as per your designing requirement. You can also add any accessories like hanging rods or wardrobe internals in your particular wardrobe configuration. Select the partition where you want to add and go into partition, and when you go into customize, you'll get options like built-in appliances, other accessories and hanging rods. So if I select hanging rods, let's say for example, I can go into hanging rods option here and select the hanging rod, and as you can see, the hanging rod has now been added. This gets added as a unit, and if you want to make any changes to the same, you can select it and go into furniture and light unit, and herein you can make any changes to the dimension or customize it if required. You can also add any wardrobe internals by selecting the partition, going into partition and go into construction. Herein under partition configuration you have an option called wardrobe internals. When you select the same, as per the available catalog with you, you can add any baskets, hanging rods, sari hangers, tie hangers or trouser hangers. Let's say I'm adding a tie pullout. So as you can see, the tie pullout is now added. you can select the same and it is added as a furniture unit. So you can go into the particular tab and you can make any changes in dimension or position as per your requirement. If you do not require the same, then you can just simply click on remove furniture light unit and the same gets deleted. In case you want to add any strip lights or cabinet lights inside your wardrobes, you can select the panel where you want to add it and go into the panel option. Herein you have strip light and light option. If you select the same, you can add any strip light that you want. As you can see, the strip light is now added. You can select the strip light and change the position if required. You can also add any cabinet lights by going through the same process, and instead of strip light you can select light and you can select any cabinet light that you want. Let's say I'm selecting this, and as you can see, a cabinet light is installed inside.